We are witnessing 355 years of peacemaking and resistance to war by the Quakers in both Europe particularly and the US, and the way in which Quakers have promoted dialogue to prevent war, promoted dialogue to limit war and end war, and then been involved in a lot of healing and peacemaking after war to prevent a further war happening. The problem with war is that it sows the seed of the next war. So you have to finish the war and do the healing afterwards, and then we hope and pray that a further war doesn't happen. And the problem that we see so much in the way that war is waged and that Australia is involved in is that level of constant dialogue and trust, building of trust and hearing other points of view is not given serious attention. There's too much attention on bombing and killing and destroying and trying to make the other side lose. And war is not solved by a side losing, it's solved by resolution of the conflict.
What did you hope to achieve by setting up tea and scones out at the army base?
We hope to achieve some dialogue with the troops, and we were representing this witness. We wanted to make it visible and audible that an important part of resisting war and preventing war is dialogue.
Do you think you've wasted police resources and court time in doing this?
Not at all. No, we believe in law reform. Quakers have always been involved in law reform since the 1650s. And the law reform comes out of people acting from their conscience and their wisdom about the importance of justice and truth. And many of the democratic rights that we have relied on today and that we have seen exercised in the court today are rights which have been given to the whole community because of the way Quakers have stood up for those rights in very cruel situations in the past.
Ms Bay, we are in fact though dealing with an increased security risk in Australia. Is it not more important than ever that our security troops and forces are ready to deal with whatever comes?
We are not against the idea of defence. We're not against the idea of force being used to control a situation which is out of control. But we are completely against the idea of training people up to do the kind of slaughter and destruction that is involved in modern warfare.
We are living in a state of constant warfare in this country, and I don't think that most Australians are actually happy about the fact that we exist in at the moment, where an American president can call a war or not even declare a war. They don't even bother to do that anymore. They just go and take in their weapons and start bombing people, that Australia automatically follows. I don't think most Australians are comfortable with that. There is no discussion, no debate. It's not taken before the Parliament. The people should have a say. And I'm all for Australia being defended too. But this is not about defence. This is about offence, taking the war to other countries with whom we actually have no arguments. So I do think that it's a very exaggerated response when the Prime Minister says they're out to get us and we've got to get them. It just ups the ante and makes for a more warlike situation to emerge. And the people who are suffering most from that are civilians, women and children. We are Quaker Grannies. We've all got grandchildren and we really care about the future. We don't want our children to grow up seeing more than what is currently spent per day at the moment, which is $87 million of taxpayers' money every day on weapons of war and preparation for war and war itself. And a great deal of that is about interoperability with the American forces. That's what Talisman Sabre is all about, to ensure that our troops know exactly what to do when they're told by the American military. Is that good enough for Australia? I don't think so.
Can you rule out that no one was at risk in what you were doing?
We were offering tea and scones at the gate.
The other people who were still out?
We were not anywhere. We didn't go into the base very far. We just committed trespass inside the gate. We were quite deliberate that we were not going to damage any property or put anybody at risk. The only people we've put at risk are ourselves, because it's not pleasant spending the night in the watch house, but we're prepared for that. we're prepared to do that, to make a witness for peace.
But on your point, I think we are coming from a place of conscience and holy obedience, which is so deep that to put ourselves in danger for a situation which is so hugely and, worldwide dangerous is actually a sacrifice we're willing to make.
Look, it doesn't seem that you're getting very far with these peaceful protests, though. Like, are you going to keep interrupting or disrupting these military activities?
I think so, yes. There's a whole lot of people around Australia who support what we're doing, who can't be here to go on the base to commit trespass, but who support us in different ways. There are millions of Australians who would actually be supporting this kind of civil disobedience, holy obedience. And I think the tide will turn because people will eventually see that this is absolute madness, the way our government is going to increase the likelihood of Australia being in a state of constant warfare.
Nobody wants war. Everyone is against war. Everyone says, I don't want war either. I'm doing what I'm doing for peace. But what is not understood is that real peace is only established by peaceful methods. And that's what we are bringing into the fore, because otherwise it's not discussed. It's the power of the military and the forces of destruction are the prominent message which comes out.
Do you think the media's got more of a responsibility to present the other point of view of peace, that too much attention's been paid by the media to the war games, the whiz-bang images of rockets being fired and amphibious landings and so on? That makes for great visual sort of images, but the three little old grannies, no media turned up yesterday, for instance, at the lock gates. Do you think both the local and the national media are negating their responsibility to give equal fairness of reporting to the side of peace?
Well, I think it'd be great if there was more attention paid to it, and it's very offensive when you see an open day that the military has, and children are encouraged to climb all over the tanks and guns and to play with these weapons. They're not toys. This is not a game. This is war, and children are being softened up to accept militarisation as the norm. So I think the question is good, because the media certainly likes to dress up the talisman sabre and all of the military weaponry, which is quite seductive. I understand that. It is seductive for some people, but there's got to be a better way. We are presenting that in a very quiet and peaceful way ourselves, and there's another point which is really important about sovereignty. We have American bases galore in this country, Pine Gap and Kojarina, which do the Americans dirty work for them in finding out who is doing what and in targeting using drones. Now, we know that drones, the unpersoned craft that go in and do their bombing, often hit the wrong targets, women and children, wedding parties and so on. That is happening courtesy of the information gathered and directed through Pine Gap and Kojarina. We now have American troops stationed in Darwin. The Marines have landed. Is this the kind of Australia we want? I don't think so. And increasingly we are being subjected to militarisation on all fronts. But there's another really important point that I think, Dawn, you'd want to make about sovereignty and the original inhabitants of this land.
Quite so. In 1983, I was at Greenham Common, RAF Greenham Common, but the signage had been changed. The signage had been altered, and it read USAF Greenham Common in the English countryside. And the signage had been changed because sovereignty had been ceded to the US and the US military industrial complex. Yesterday, I was arrested for trespass on Commonwealth land. I look forward to the day when that land is returned to the Darumbal people whose sovereignty has never been ceded.
This is Aboriginal land, always was and always will be. And that is part of our respectful process as well, to appreciate the First Nations people of this country. And we will never actually have peace and justice in this country until we sort out a truly respectful relationship with the First Nations people of this land.
And to acknowledge the frontier wars, which are either ignored or denied. We will never grow up as a nation until we say, yes, this is our sorry black history. We have to acknowledge it. We have to grow up.